Hello, my name is Joshua, and I'm an INTP, and the purpose of this video is really a mental exercise and a dive into sort of the implicit aspects of another video series that I'm going to be coming out with about typology. And I really want to start fleshing out some thoughts and really making clear about what are some of the implications to the framework and the network of this system. So, when everybody thinks of something, or when everybody has something to say, they don't quite realize that it is within a held system, or it is within a held structure that's comprised of axioms and assumptions. And so the larger assumptions or the larger premises, the larger axioms that make up a system determine what it's going to be and how it's going to fold out and what sort of propositions or statements it's going to hold and what it's going to see as relevant, significant, true or not. And so there are things that I think about and I assume and I make cases for that are empirically based that are going to absolutely influence the way I look at typology and MBTI. Uh, Particularly, one of the things, an idea I was thinking about is what cognitive functions are, what typology is, and what it's not, in particular in its relationship to intelligence and creativity. Okay, because oftentimes you'll hear the case made that NTs or NFs are wildly creative and have a sort of creative intelligence to them. And I want to say that that's a myth per se, even though that's something that we observe in many established figures that have been typed as NTs or NFs, and say that it is not the individual's personality per se that's creative, but the action and orient of the individuals. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, when we're talking about personality, I don't really know what intelligence is. First, let me say that. I don't believe intelligence describes itself merely to IQ, but I don't think that it's something that's multiple intelligence either. I don't think that it's something that is contained within skills. It's something that we use to express skills with and we use to learn them and refine them, but intelligence isn't a skill itself. It seems to be some sort of neurobiological factor that's independent. And it seems to be independent of personality because when you look at least Mensa statistics and its distribution between introverts and extroverts, when you meet highly intelligent people, they tend to be introverted, but it's like a 60-40 divide or a 50 or 50-50, nearly 50-50 divide, which is to say that intelligence, it's something, but it's not something that's necessarily contained within the personality. It seems to be something independent of the personality. It seems to be something that will influence the personality most certainly, but that doesn't seem to be a factor of the personality itself. And I think that people can pull from their lay experiences that they'll meet a type such as an INFJ or an ISTP, and they'll be particularly intelligent. They'll be very bright and be able to conceive and pick up things in a way that other people aren't able to pick up and perceive them, but they still have a totally different orient in how they see and view the world. At least I've come across this in my own experience, and what that tells me and leads me to believe is that intelligence and personality aren't um, the same things. They're not, and so it's to say when people are talking about types and we're determining what somebody's type is, we shouldn't sit there and say because they display certain just cognitive characteristics, because when you're looking at somebody who's intelligent, what intelligence seems to be, it seems to be something that's localized in the prefrontal cortex, You hear neuroscientific researchers say it often that people with high intelligence displays extremely powerful executive functions, being their prefrontal cortex and the frontal lobe and the parietal lobe, and these different regions of the brain that are concerned with future planning, attention, focus, concentration, deductive and analytical skills. And so when you're talking about intelligence, you're talking about somewhat of a package of these traits existing in somebody's thoughts. And so if you have an intelligent type that say they're an INFP, they may be emotional, but you may come to find out that they display traits that may be similar to an NT type. And is that to say that they're some sort of hybrid between NT and NF? No, it's just that they're highly intelligent, and intelligence seems to be a factor that's independent of personality. Um, so that's one of the first things I wanted to talk about and say, and then the other mind is the sort of description of creative thinking. So creativity and intelligence aren't the same things. At least so far as when they look at cognitive research and they look at the brain of highly creative people and they look at the brain of highly intelligent people, that's not a synonymous thing. When somebody whose brain is creative, their brain patterns tend to resemble somebody who's schizotypal, and schizotypal or schizotypy is a configuration of the brain that is analogous or similar to schizophrenia. It is not the same thing. It does not mean crazy people and creative people are the same people, but they have certain structures in their brain that are just their brain structured in such a way, it's organized in such a way that they are very similar and seem to be variants of one another. They seem to exist on a spectrum. But when you have somebody who's highly intelligent, they have a very, so when somebody's highly creative, their frontal lobe is downgraded. The myelin network that's at the front of their brain isn't as rich, and it doesn't seem to be as dense in gray matter. It allows for greater associations between ideas for that individual, and that's not what intelligence is. Intelligence is focus, it's clear, laser-like precision about things, and it is not associative in the sense that it's grabbing any idea that seems not relevant to whatever rules or structures exist for that idea. But that's not what creativity does. Creativity is something different. So when we're talking about somebody being in so when we're talking about somebody being intelligent and somebody being creative, that's not necessarily the same thing. And if you see creative thinking or critical creative thinking, I guess is the way to say it, is when people analyze a system, they come up with new rules and they find a new way to display the system, then that's a combination of intelligence and creativity. And that's why we call those people geniuses. And genius, I don't even know what the hell that is. I don't know what that means. But I know that that's a descriptive tool. It's a descriptive model for thinking that resembles creativity and intelligence. And these things seem to be independent of somebody's personality insofar as that creativity, it comes by way of natural disposition, but then also expertise. So when you're looking at an individual who's highly creative in any area or any field, they know it extremely well. It's frightening how well they do. Or they know some other field that's not directly related to it, but they have an extreme mastery over it, that they take it into that field and create something new with the basis of knowledge that they started when they entered it. Which, again, it's knowledge and expertise comes into the act of creativity. And it would appear that you can't be highly creative if you don't have a very steep foundation of knowledge of a field or a domain of knowledge. So creativity, it's not merely in the ability to see abstraction or recognize and use abstraction. That even may be more related to intelligence, they both do this, a lot of similar things in a very superficial lens. But wholeheartedly, to me, what I seem to pull from the research I've done and my understanding of personality is that we've got to stop having this talk that NTs are much more intelligent than other types, or that NFs necessarily are much more creative than other types, or that SPs or SJs, that they have these fixed things about them when it comes to their cognitive capacities and their ability to be creative. Creativity, at least in so far as how I conceive it and think about it, is just the ability to come up with novel and useful ideas, and that is a ubiquitous human phenomena that everybody has to some scale and to some degree. Um, and it seems to be more dependent on a person's expertise rather than their personality. And then you could possibly make the case that some personalities may have the propensity to practice and to pursue domains of knowledge than others. But it's not something that's impossible for all people. Anders Ericsson's work on expertise has just shown in a stunning fashion that expertise is something that the individual chooses and pursues. It's something that has something to do with the environment and what the individual has been exposed to, but it's wholly contained, well, not wholly, but mainly contained in deliberate practice and what the individual chooses to pursue. So, if that be the case with creativity and that be the case with intelligence, then I don't think that it's safe for us to sit here and start saying about certain type groups that they hail or they contain these things, or that we imbue them with traits that they don't necessarily come with. The ability to be analytical, is analytical a direct representation of somebody? If somebody's analytical ability a direct representation of their level of intelligence? I don't know. But what I would say is that when you meet somebody who's an expert or in a field of knowledge, or is a skilled laborer or craftsman, they have an alarming analytical precision to their work, or what they think about when it comes to that work. And analysis is something that's naturally ascribed to INTPs, and sure, am I as an INTP highly analytical, and that's something that just came with my existence? Yes, but it's not something that's just localized and possible by the INTP, or possible by somebody with introverted thinking. There seems to be other factors or larger factors at play that determine somebody's analytical veracity. And it's the same thing about creativity. Um, you know, can there be highly skilled NT painters or storytellers? Yes. Or highly creative, I should say. Yes, because there seems to be just this skeleton of skill that a person needs to be creative, and then where they go with the creativity is based on their personal experiences or their interaction with the environment and just the time period that they live in. So many factors that extend beyond personality that I think it's not fair, nor is it safe to say that this type is more intelligent than others, or this type is more creative than others. That the types are the types, and what they're really talking about is a person's mode of existence, not what they do. I don't think that typology may tell you why somebody does something or why somebody's able to do something, but it doesn't determine what it's going to be. It doesn't determine what it is. The person, as well as their environment, determines that. And so that's one of the thoughts that I may not talk about in great detail with any of the following videos that I'm going to make, but something that should be said, because the underlying assumptions and supplemental propositions to a line of thinking are just as important, or maybe more important, than the main ones you hear or you see. Thank you.